I'm talking with Mirna via email and text, and hopefully she should log on soon. In the meantime, while we're figuring out that, I want to welcome you all to the Armchair Adventure Book Club series 2021. This is the second year we're doing it, and we're pretty excited to do it again. We're starting off this month with Mirna's book, which is a beautiful work in progress. These book club talks, it's great if you've read the book. It's great if you haven't. We hope that you'll pick it up afterwards. We try to keep it pretty broad so that everyone can participate. There you are.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm okay. I'm so sorry. So sorry to, here we go. Can you see me? I'm in a hotel room somewhere on a mountain in Vermont. So
that's where we all want to be. And yes, I'm glad you're here. I am not the best with technology, but I think it looks like we can hear you, we can see you.
Awesome.
And I have a support person over at the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. And so she is streaming this on Facebook for the Appalachian Trail Conservancy and all the trail enthusiasts there. And then we're also streaming at Blue Ridge Hiking Company. So you can say hi to everyone.
Hi, everybody. Hello. And you know, I actually still have my ski boots on because I just had a ski lesson and I wildly underestimated how long it would take me to get in and out of the ski boots. And so I still have one ski boot on.
It's harder than sneakers, huh?
Oh my God. It's so tough.
It reminds me in your book when you were talking about like the hassle of rollerblading, right? Like it was your inline skates that you were so proud of. And then you were like, oh, forget it. I'm just going to like put my sneakers on and go.
It's so much. It's so much gear. But like once you're in the skates and once you're in the boots and you got all of the accoutrement, you know, ready, then you can have a good time. But it literally took me a half an hour to put the boots on and like get everything together.
Well, we hope this is a good warm-up break for you before you go out and hit the slopes again this afternoon. And I was just telling folks while you were logging back in about your wonderful book and these author talks. It's great if you've read the book, but we also just try to keep it broad, and we hope a lot of people pick up the book after hearing you speak. So Mirna, I'm going to give you a brief introduction and then we'll dive into our questions. Does that sound good to you?
Awesome. Excellent.
Cool. Okay. So Mirna, I feel like we should have met a long time ago. We have been on a lot of the same trails, but she is an outdoor enthusiast. She is a runner, hiker, skier, as we see today. She has spent most of her career in education, and I feel like through her books and through her blog, she has educated not just her students, but so many people and inspired so many people to get outdoor and get fit. And so we're very excited to have her here today. Mirna, I thought it would be fun as we start. And just so you know, and so our audience knows, because this is our first Armchair Adventure Book Talk of the year, we're going to do about 20-25 minutes of questions that I'll ask you, and then we're going to open it up for audience Q&A. But to get started, I like to ask some like quick get to know you questions. So don't feel like these need long answers. This is, you know, this is what I'm dying to know after reading your book. So here we go. Okay, if you were gonna run or hike with one celebrity, who would it be?
Beyonce.
I know. Yeah. That leads into my next question. I know you have a background in music and that you love music. So what is the one song that gets stuck in your head more than any other when you're on the trail?
Probably, you know, I'm a classical musician. So like there's the opera version, but there's also the, you know, the music that I grew up with. So I would say probably Luther Vandross's Home.
Home. Oh.
Or like a house is not a home.
Because you feel, is that because you feel at home on the trail? Is that part of it?
No, it's just
No.
the song that pops up into my head every single time, like, especially when I'm feeling a little creeped out, you have those moments when you're like, what was that crash in the woods? And you're like, a house is not a home.
So Luther is the calming voice in your head. And I want to get to those moments of feeling a little nervous, but I also want to talk about your favorite trail snack. I noticed that there was a lot of mention of jalapeno kettle chips, right?
Still, to
Still,
this day. Yes.
yeah, they're so good. Doesn't that make you, if you're already thirsty and then you eat the jalapeno flavor and then you're like,
No, but then it gets your mouth watering because it's hot.
but that makes sense. So it makes you drink. So maybe that's good. And then I am curious too. You are so well-rounded as far as your outdoor activities. I mean, your book really focuses on running and trail running, but then like when you look at your social media feed or when you talk, to you, it's just clear that you're skiing, you're skating, you're running, you're hiking, you're biking, you're skiing, you're backpacking. So what is one adventure that you would, COVID permitting, that you would love to have this year? Like what's on your radar?
I'm going to get past the beginner or the novice level of skiing, because that's where I am. I'm still like learning how to turn, like this morning, and you'll see it on my Instagram later on today. But I think I want to do some backcountry stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that this year at my level, but I would love, like, pie in the sky. I would love to do that.
That is very cool. I am super Southern, so that does not make my list. My idea of winter sports is like going to find manatees in Florida. But I respect your winter drive to get out there. Okay, now I want to dive into some kind of longer form questions from your book. And, it seems like, based off what I read in here, that your introduction to fitness and running on trails really came because of field hockey and the exposure you had in high school to sports. And so I was just wondering, based off that experience, what thoughts you have on how important it is to get kids outside, how to expose them to health and fitness in nature, and good ways to do that.
Yeah, that's a great question because, well, yesterday was Women in Sports Day, right? Or is that today? It was yesterday, I think. Or it was Doctors Day, Women's Doctors Day or something. But I think I really, really believe in just getting kids outside. It doesn't even have to be a sport. Because growing up in Brooklyn, New York, we didn't have money to play sports, so we were just outside all the time, and that was my introduction to just wanting to be outside and wanting to move. And we did. Like there was a big a big little gang of us, cousins and brothers and sisters, and we were just roaming around Brooklyn basically all summer. And that was our introduction to movement. We would race, we would play tag, we would play Mother May I and other inappropriate games. And that was it. And then when I got to high school, that's when I could play organized sports. And it was so cool because I got to be a part of a team. I got to really rely on the strength of my own body, and also like knowing that I didn't have to be perfect, right? I know there are a lot of teams and a lot of team sports that aren't that way, but I went to an all-girls school, and that was it. It was all about being a team, all about, being athletic and being strong and working to make sure your own body was strong so that you could contribute to the rest of the team. And it was a very positive experience for me. And I think the more positive experiences that we can give our kids that aren't necessarily competitive, that aren't that cutthroat, you only play one sport, you can't play any other sports, where all the kids are now getting injured because they only play one sport all year. I think, the more variety that you can throw at a child, the more, positive reinforcement, with some, feedback. That feedback is necessary. As an 18-year-long teacher, you give the positive reinforcement, but you also say, here's how you can do better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that would bode well for adulthood.
I was so impressed, not just through your experience of finding health and wellness and fitness as a youth sports participant, but then you turn into a coach at these schools that you are teaching and working at. And I just was really struck by reading your accounts of coaching, specifically young women, although I think young women and men would be very lucky to have you, because it was clear when you were giving them this gift of movement that it would be a tool they could take with them for life, and that it was a relationship, and that it wasn't looked at as this necessarily solely competitive endeavor. So it's just beautiful how you gave that gift to other people. And I also, I'm curious to ask you, so you had field hockey and running for sports, and then you started doing the road stuff, but what was it that drew you outdoors and then drew you to the trail?
Sure. I think it really was field hockey. I mean, I went to a boarding school, so we were on this beautiful campus, and the field that we practiced on was really just enormous and green and beautiful, and it smelled like wild onions. I think I wrote about that because every time I go outside and there's freshly cut grass and I smell wild onions, it brings me right back to that moment where I was like, I think I want to do this. I think I want to be like my coach. I see her bobbing around, up and down hills, just running after a full day of teaching and coaching. And she's out there running and she's talking. I still can't talk and run at the same time, but she's talking to this other coach and they're having a good time. And I also noticed that it just made my body so much stronger and it made me feel good. And so it was really that moment. And I had hiked before. I'd, been out on trails before. In my middle school, we had public-private partnership programs where they took us to the Adirondacks. They took us to the Catskills and other natural areas where, we learned some skills and I got to go to camp. And so I was always wanting to replicate those experiences because I had so much fun being at camp or being at boarding school. I loved my boarding school. So it's whatever that I would say that for anyone who loves trails and stuff, there's always a poignant or formative experience that you can trace back to why you love the things that you love today.
So as we talk, because I know it's a focus of so many right now, and we're behind on this, like this should have been a focus long before, but so many of us in the outdoor industry and outdoor organizations are talking about diversity and inclusion in the outdoors and how to support that. So I'm curious from your perspective, like what is the one thing that you think is an action step that we can all take to increase and support diversity and inclusion in the outdoors and get people out who might not otherwise be exposed to it?
Sure. There are many, many, many things. I don't think there's just one thing that we can depend on, but one of the things is that early introduction to outdoor spaces. And also, I think sort of concomitant with that is acknowledging where people are, acknowledging whatever their outdoors is. My outdoors in Brooklyn was like going out and sitting on a stoop or going to a neighborhood park. And that was my outdoors. It wasn't mountains. It wasn't, these quote unquote epic adventures, kayaking and stuff. That's how we got outside. And once we realized that everybody has outdoor experience and some level of expertise, and we don't always come at it with I am the expert, ethos, I think that would clear up a lot of stuff and just allow people to kind of learn at their own pace. And also, being invitational as outdoorists. I like the term outdoorist because I think it's not outdoorsy, because when you say outdoorsy, it's, you have this one particular image of what that looks like. It is a mountain. It is probably a white man or a white woman doing something with a backpack or climbing or something. But, I think, people who are migrant farmers, they have outdoor skills. Those are very, very important outdoor skills. People who are, or not even migrant farmers, people just generally in the farming community, people who work outside, they all have outdoor skills, and we need to honor those as such, and then harness them into this big sort of conglomerate of outdoor experiences and then move forward with that.
Yeah, that is a terrific point. I remember this one time I was on the Appalachian Trail and there was a local group. They had taken out people who didn't have homes, and most of them camped on the street, and they were on the trail, and it was a really cold night, and I had such better gear, and they put me to shame. Like, they were so comfortable because their survival skills were, as you said, like outdoorist skills. So to recognize that people who might not look like Patagonia models are also very experienced outdoors people or outdoorists. That's a great point. Um, I am curious. So you have a lot of East Coast outdoor experience, and it was really fun to read your book and see mention of trails like the Pinhoti Trail or the Foothills Trail. And I know that you've lived in Vermont, New York, New Jersey, and Georgia. And so I'm wondering what your relationship is with the Appalachian Trail.
Um, I don't have quite the relationship that I would like to have with the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah.
I've been on it a bunch of times. Dick's Creek Gap was the closest trailhead to me in Georgia. And so I was on there a lot. I would like train on that trail all the time. And I've done different parts of it, like in Way Yonder State Park, up north. And my relationship to it is it's very technical and there's a lot of rocks. Just like, I mean, that's the Northeast. It's like boulders are everywhere. It's all boulders and then more boulders. And so, and I love that. I love that it's super technical and difficult. And I also appreciate that they're, like contrary to the West, and I love running out in the West too, but yeah, I'm an East Coast, Beast Coast girl, right? All, my entire life, right? So, but I love how I feel like the Appalachian Trail and the mountains and land surrounding the trail just have this wisdom. I always think of the Appalachian Mountains as very wise because they are so old. It's the oldest mountain range in the world, right? So I love that about it, and I always feel honored. And there's always like this sort of mystery when I'm out on the AT.
Yeah, and that is one thing I was thinking about. It was so interesting because your story again, and I forgot Maryland. You lived in Maryland, right?
Yeah, Maryland.
So
we can forget
all these 5 states you lived in, like New York, Vermont, Maryland, New Jersey, Georgia. What I think from the general geography where you placed yourself is that probably you were an hour to an hour and a half from the Appalachian Trail in almost every location you lived. And when we talk about accessibility, like that's one of the great things I think that people don't realize about long distance trails like this is that you can get to it at Bear Mountain State Park outside of New York City. Like you could be a city kid and get to the trail. You can be near DC and get to the trail in an hour. So it is such a great resource, and it connects so many different people of different backgrounds and beliefs. And I really love that. Okay.
So true. And actually, the fact that you mentioned that I've been basically moving up and down the trail.
You didn't notice that?
I hadn't even thought about that.
You're a total section hiker. You've done all these like pieces of the trail. Yes, I know. Just a few little gaps to fill in, like 7 more states to live in. But, okay, so I have to say, well, let's talk about your fears because, I'm reading your books and you're hiking and running in the woods. And a lot of times you said, even if you're racing or training, you're out there alone and sometimes at night. And so you had the bugaboo moments of, I hear this, there's a rustling, thunderstorms, I know are something that sort of makes you uneasy. So, sorry, didn't mean to say it. How do you overcome those fears that you have on the trail?
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily overcome them. I let them live within me. Because I mean, I feel like that's my only choice. If I want to get anything done, if I want to get any hiking done or any trail running done or any camping or backpacking done, I just have to live with it and be scared. And there are not a lot of things where I'm so fearful that I won't do the thing, but I just let it be. I let the fear be. And it's a very uncomfortable feeling. But then I think when you get used to just having that fear and acknowledging it, then it's much easier to actually go forth and do something. With the thunderstorms, I mean, like I can't hide from the thunderstorms. And if I'm out on the trail, I mean, I just got to keep moving. Or if it's really bad, maybe find a rock outcropping or something. But I just got to keep moving and get to where I feel safe. right? So I think, and even with bears, like I was just telling a story this morning to the ski instructor who thinks I'm crazy, that I was out on the trail. I was in Georgia on Black Rock Mountain. And I was like, I have to go do this training. I don't care. I got to get this vert in. I'm preparing for a big race. Da, da, da. So I get to the trailhead. There's only one other car. And this trailhead is normally very busy. Lots of cars, but there was only one other car. And so I was like, yeah, I started to feel uneasy. You know, like intuition is a thing. It is real. You should always follow your intuition, right? But I didn't follow my intuition this one time. And so I go out on the trail. I'm like very determined to get my mileage in. And this runner comes at me really fast, right? And I'm like, hey, dude, how you doing? And he's like, good. If you're gonna continue running on this trail, you should watch out because there's a bear on the trail. And and that was it. That was my intuition, right? That, you know, that's what it had been trying to tell me. And so I said, well, I'm not going to be continuing. I'm just going to turn around and run with you. And I've never run a half mile on technical trail so fast in my life. But, you know, otherwise, but I was still willing to do it. And, you know, bears, like, they're not going to bother you. Like they're, you know, I'm not scared of them per se, but they do shock me. And I do get frightened for a couple of seconds, but like, as I wrote in my book, right. But I calm myself down. My intellect chimes in and says, you know, the bear's they're not going to eat you, you know? And so you're going to be fine. Just take precaution. And so, you know, I think, you know, going into something, knowing that there's going to be stuff that scares you, knowing that, you know, you're going to feel uneasy, but also to listen to your intuition as well. Those are all part of the human experience. And I think we can all take the lesson from that, you know, listen to your intuition, but also go forth and explore and utilize all the skills and resources that you have.
That's, yes, I agree with that little voice you hear. You've got to honor that. And fear is not necessarily a negative emotion, only when it controls us, right? But we have to listen to it and honor it. So one of the things, and I should have mentioned this in your intro, and I apologize, but so you have run up to 100-kilometer race, right? Which is an extremely long distance, like 60 miles. You have you only have to do it once. That is enough. And you worked towards that. So here was what for me was a little mind baffling, because I've done, you know, endurance sports, and most of my biggest endurance sports were before I had my children. And you worked at boarding schools, which I'm very familiar with. My brothers worked at a boarding school for 20 years. So it's basically like 24/7, you're on call. And then you had a child that you were taking care of. And one of the things I loved in your book was when you were talking about every time you tried to get up and work out at home or do anything in the morning, it could be 2 a.m. or 5 a.m. and you would have like a partner climbing on you immediately. Yes. And I was like, yes, I feel that. So you were doing so many of these adventures and so much of this training when you were working full-time plus and being a mom. So how did you manage that? And what would you say to other parents who are trying to struggle to find time for adventures or fitness or time in nature when they're juggling jobs and children?
It's really difficult. It really is. I mean, there's no perfect way to balance it. I think that, you know, when my kid, he's 17 now, but when he was small, like he wouldn't sleep. He just wouldn't sleep at all. You know, maybe 2.5 hours at a time. And then, you know, as he got big, well, he didn't start sleeping until he was 9.5 years old, like through the night. Now he sleeps through the day, but it, you know, it was hard, but you know, like, okay, he's going to climb all over me. I'm still going to try to do my downward dog while he's under me. Yeah. And I think number one, that's good role modeling. Number two, and then, you know, I think sometimes the kids start doing the things that you're doing, you know, and which is fun. And sometimes you just have to cut your workout short. I mean, that's the name of the game of, you know, being a parent, and then maybe trying to find the time somewhere else in the day or not. Or like, if you only get 20 minutes, then you've done 20 minutes more than nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And so having grace with yourself and not beating yourself up, because that is just a part of parenting. As I moved into boarding school, I had students. I hired students to watch my kid, or I
Wow.
would go out super early in the morning. I would get up at 4
Mhm.
and, you know, head to the gym and come back by 7, where my husband would have gotten my kid ready, and then we were able to start our day, right? So so there are ways to do it. I think it's a matter of prioritizing yourself, number one, and
Mhm.
knowing that you really can't continually give of yourself without giving yourself something, right? And so if working out in the morning or in the late evening is that giving that something to you, then that's something that you need to do. It really is a matter of prioritizing. And there are enough hours in the day. There are definitely hours in the day for yourself.
Yeah, it kind of hit me when I was learning about your story through your book that you know, running and working out was really a form of self-care for you, because any other time you were available to someone who needed you, right? Like at schools, you're always available to these students who are there, and as a parent, you're always available. And when you were on the trailer at the gym, it just seemed like this protected time that was for you, which is really neat. And then, so you talk a lot about sort of body image and confidence and all these themes running through your book. And I know that for me, my perception of who I was, how I looked, how I felt about that changed dramatically when I went outdoors, because suddenly I respected my body, not so much because of how it looked or how people perceived it, but based off what it could do. And I also realized that I was part of nature. And so, how
Mhm.
connected was your journey of fitness and running to how you saw yourself and how you accepted your body?
Yeah, you know, another good question. I think the more you do with your body, the more you know your body, and the more you know what it can do and how strong you are and what it can withstand. As a mom, not everybody's a mom, but as a mom, like, you know, giving birth to a child who is that long. That's a point of reference. I think when we do these things, we always have points of reference for our own innate ability to survive, to thrive, to be strong, to do hard things. I kind of hate that phrase. I can do hard things. We all can do hard things. We all can do hard things. And chances are that we have already done really hard things. So like if you have working out or going out on the trail or doing something new as a point of reference, as a positive point of reference for you, where you felt your body grow, you felt your spirit grow, your mind grow, then that's what we should be aiming towards. I think, and then also in terms of like appreciating your body for what it is, no matter what shape
Yeah.
it's in. No matter how you think you look or how you think other people think you look, no matter what other people say about your body and the opinions they might have about what you should or shouldn't be doing. As long as you have that innate ability to know yourself and to know your body, which you can achieve through going outside or lifting some weights or running on a treadmill or rolling around in the snow like I did the other day or this morning as well. Then I think you'll have a really great relationship with your body.
So I want to ask you two more questions, one about
Mhm.
conservation, one about COVID, and then we'll open it up for audience questions too. So if you're in our Zoom room, you can put those in chat or Q&A. If you're on Facebook, put them on Facebook, and I have someone texting me those questions. So go ahead and start writing those down. But in line with that idea of spending time outdoors changes how you see yourself, I also think spending time outdoors changes how you connect with nature and how you value nature. And I'm wondering from your experience and your perspective, how your connection to nature has changed throughout this journey of spending so much time outside, and then how your feelings about conservation have also changed, and any steps that you've taken towards trying to make a difference in that area.
Sure. I definitely think and know personally that my relationship to land has changed the more I engaged in things outdoors. So like, for example, if I'm on a trail and I see trash, I get ragingly angry.
Really?
Like, how dare someone throw trash? Or, if I see, an unnecessary Karen or something like that, even though it's like, it might be artistic, I start thinking about the ways in which we affect the natural areas around us. But the other thing that I do is I also know that we are part of nature. And so many times, like just historically, what conservation and preservation have meant is getting people off of land so that it can be in this pristine wilderness condition. And actually we use the land, right? Native populations use the land, and like kind of were erased, or not kind of, were erased, and so that we could have this image of this land that that is devoid of humans. We are humans. We are part of nature. We are animals. We utilize the land, but in that we should also be very aware of our impact, the impact of our footsteps, the impact of going off trail, which is why trails exist. So we don't destroy the land around the trails. We do need to get from point A to point B, but we can do that on the trail and not off the trail, so that we can still have flora and fauna flourishing, both for our use and for the continual resurgence of the earth and just the land in general, and life. So there are all these like interconnecting things that are really, really, really fun and awesome. But I think that the biggest thing that I've gotten from it is that, yeah, we are absolutely part of nature, and we shouldn't think of ourselves as human as apart from nature. And so, and part of our responsibility is being good stewards of the land, but also introducing people to the land who haven't traditionally had access to the land, so that they can also engage in it and learn and have an appreciation for it and take care of it in the future.
Yeah, I mean, that was when I read your book, I felt like there was a real connection of this awakening of taking care of yourself as a part of taking care of nature. And it should also then, overflow into taking care of our environment. And it's all really connected. And again, I really can't recommend this book enough. I feel like during this COVID season, I've felt disconnected, and my friend group is smaller. And Mirna, the way you write, I mean, we were friends. Like, I was reading your book, and one thing I appreciate is you had these really deep, wonderful, motivating insights and just the right amount of snark. Like, there were moments in those races where you were like, that girl, like, I'm going to get that girl. And I just really felt like you brought us along with you. And so by the end, even though this is like Creeper, I felt really close to you. And at the final chapter, you talked about something that's really important to me and really resonated with me. And that is this idea of movement helps us through so much, and the ability to keep going and keep putting one foot in front of the other. But I know, as someone who identifies as a mover and finds a lot of purpose and wellness in that, this season has been so hard, because in so many ways, COVID has made me feel stuck and made me feel limited, and like I'm not moving the way I used to or the way I want to. So as my new BFF, I'm wondering what advice you can give people, maybe like me, who feel stuck in order to keep moving gracefully, like through this season.
Wow. I mean, do we have a couple more hours? I think, just like literally moving is very important. I think whether we find ways to move indoors, I've been doing a lot of indoor moving as well. But I think a lot of us are afraid of going outside too, especially in urban areas. And so, I think, taking your whatever physical precautions you need to, like getting outside and having the sunlight on your face is very uplifting, right? It's a new normal. It's never going to be whatever the old normal was. And so this is an opportunity to create new habits, new things, new ways of connecting with people, hopefully we will be able to see each other in real life, in person, on a regular basis soon, right? And that is part of being a human being, and we are social beings. That's our nature, right? But in the meantime, we can make sure that we connect with other people. We can still do some social distance hikes or runs, what have you, or we could all be on a Zoom call and work out together or whatever. Like, maintaining the human connection is so, so important as we move through this awful time in the history of humanity, right? And but you have to find the way that is most meaningful to you and most doable, right? Not setting like these crazy goals where you can't achieve it and then you feel bad and then you quit and then it's done and then you feel depressed, right? Start small. Again, do something that's meaningful with people that you love, even if it's on Zoom or Skype or whatever it is. And just, and like like this is our reality right now. So we don't have a whole lot of control over a lot of things. And so let's control the things that we can, and let's stay connected.
Okay, I might call you again to get that like one more time when I need it. Maybe every day, but that is.
You have my number now.
I do. I do. Yes. So I have monopolized a lot of your time because I was so excited. I'm sorry about that. We do have a lot of other questions coming in on my cell phone and our little Q&A and chat box. So let me dive in. One of our audience community members is curious, when is your next book? And
oh my God. Is
that the question everyone asks now?
Yeah.
When is it? What is it?
Well, I don't know. Okay, so I was in the midst of writing a second part. Well, it was going to be a different sort of memoir, but mostly based on parenting, and using adventure as a way to teach the lessons and like derive metaphors for parenting as my child. And because in the first chapter of that I already have written is about my kid getting lost or going missing in the Copper Canyons in 2019, and while we were on a trail running retreat. And so, and I learned a lot of lessons from that. And so that's the first chapter. But then there were so many things going on and so many other things that competed for my attention. So I stopped writing that. But then in November, I joined NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, and wrote 3/4 of a novel about adventure, where there are lessons. It's mostly like sociological stuff in there, but it takes place in Pisgah National Forest.
Pisgah.
So, and my agent caught wind that I was doing this, and I was just doing it for fun. I wasn't even trying to like make it a thing, but she says, I'm going to need to see the book. She's a New Yorker, so she talks like that. And she's like, I'm going to need to see the book. I heard you're writing one. So my goal is to have the last quarter done by the summer, and then work on it and do a lot of editing and stuff. And we'll see from there if I like the story, but who knows? I'm not a fiction writer, but I had so much fun writing this and developing characters and stuff. So it'll might be a year and a half or so.
Well, that's exciting. And we hope if this comes out that you come do a book release or a hike around Pisgah. That's where my background is. Pisgah sort of surrounds Western North Carolina. We love it. The Appalachian Trail goes through Pisgah National Forest. Someone else asked, okay, so you are really this like lover of movement and motion and ultra running and working out and hiking and skiing and all of it. Do you have any interest in a through hike?
The other question, I don't know. I was actually planning on doing the AT this year, 2021, and I started planning 3 years ago. And but COVID and other things have happened. But I think if I do it, I'm going to do it when my kid is out of college. So I don't have to worry about him. And because I only have one kid, and where I'm like, I feel free to go ahead and do that, because when you have children, right, even if they're older, you know, you want to make sure that you're there for them. And so I don't want to like go away for 6 months and like not be present for my kids. So after college, he's on his own.
Yes. Yes. You have given your time. You've done it. Time for mama to
that's 5 years. So 5 years.
Okay. We'll see 2026. Yes, that's the start date. Speaking of kids, someone is asking, God bless them. They say, my kids are 5, 4, and 2. What adventures would you recommend to do as a family when you have young children? Any favorite family adventures?
Hiking, just hiking and nature walks. I love nature walks. I even like go to like nature centers and do the little things and identify. I love identifying trees. Like those things are so cool. And the trails are short, but you get to be outside. And then if you make it a normal thing, studies show that when kids are introduced very, very early to things in nature and activities in nature, they will probably do it in adulthood. So even if it's, you know, you got a kid on your back, I used to take Rashid hiking in my big Kelty pack and just by myself. I didn't know what I was doing, but I would take him and we would hike. And so he just got used to being outside. And that was a thing that he craves now. He doesn't go on trails, but he likes to run outside on his own. I have nothing to do with that, I don't think. But yeah, I think, and there's something for everyone. And just like having a kid roll around in the grass and walk on the trail or be barefoot, that's really, really significant. So, even something that's really short where you all go out for a little bit, or you can take one out at a time. I mean, that's 3 kids. That's a lot of time, but there's so many different ways, or guided hikes when we're allowed to do those things again, where there are people who are educators and who know how to really engage children. I think that's a really great way to get them outside.
Yes, I agree. Hiking, and again, we call it hiking where a lot of times it was picnicking or just having a temper tantrum outside, but like we were outside when we did it, and it helped. It really does help with young children. So I totally agree. So here are some other cell phone questions coming in. We are celebrating Black History Month this month, which is really exciting. And someone wants to know if you have someone who you think of during Black History Month who's African American, who's really been an inspiration to you and where you are today.
Oh man, there's so many people. But the first person that comes to mind, actually, and I have written a lot about not wanting to do Black History Month because every month is Black History Month. Yes. But I get it. But when I was in 5th grade, we used to do, every class had to do a play. And I think I was the only Black kid in this one class, and I got to play Shirley Chisholm in this play. And I wore the glasses and I had a suit. And Shirley Chisholm, if you don't know who she was the first Black woman to run for president of the United States, and only Black woman to run for president of the United States, I believe. And she was a Quaker, and she taught in a Quaker school. She was brilliant and brought all of these issues to the forefront that people hadn't been thinking of, and also like people. And Black people who were already at the forefront of the political machine back then, in the late 70s and 80s. And so she's fantastic. And that is someone who I like to emulate in my work, maybe being one of the only ones, but like pushing her agenda, even though people don't necessarily believe in her agenda, and being really strong and continuing the work, even though she lost and she knew she was going to lose, but she continued to work anyway. And that's what I love about Shirley Chisholm. Yeah,
that's amazing. I always, as a hiker too, I always think of Harriet Tubman, because she was like the ultimate like stealth, she did so much cross country, like she's someone, but the idea of doing something because it's right and not because you're going to win or get positive attention is so important. Okay, just time for 1 or 2 more questions, and then I know you need to eat and ski more. But
take off your ski boots. That's all I wanted to.
Sorry, we should have given you time to do that.
No, we're good.
So someone who has read your book said it sounds like you have a great relationship with your husband, but you never mentioned that he's like a hiker, runner, outdoor enthusiast, or works out with you. So how do you navigate a passion of health and wellness that does take a lot of time when, you know, it's not your partner's thing? Like, how do you find that balance?
So a lot of people don't even know that I'm married. Even like if you haven't read my book, you don't know that I'm married, because you never see my husband except for very rarely on social media, because he actually lives in West Africa. Now he has a business in West Africa, and every couple of months he'll come by. But he loves being outside. When he was up in Vermont this summer, and I went hiking, and went hiking every day because I couldn't run. I was really, really injured just before my knee surgery. But I would hike all the time, and I'd go out and just like be out for hours, and he would come and he's like, "This is so great." He would say it in his accent, but I'm not going to try to replicate it. He's like, "This is so great. It's so clean here." Because, when he's working in the States, he works in New York, right? And he's like, "It's so dirty back there." I was like, "I know, I was born there." But he loves it. He loves being outside. I mean, he's from West Africa, so his life is outside, right? They're in his culture, they don't stay inside. They're always out. They're outside working. They're outside walking. They have markets outside because most of the year it's hot. So that's normal for him. And it's always been very important for him to go play basketball, which is why my kid plays basketball, and go play soccer. That's the biggest thing in his life. And to just make sure you're moving and being strong. And so that's part of his life. And actually, that there's a part in the book where he said that he would come run with me, and that was the beginning of the end. We never ran. He never ran that next morning. But anyway, that's a different story. But that's very important to him. And then also, like, it's important to my son. Like, it's part of our lifestyle, being outside, moving, making sure that we're taking care of our physical selves as well as our mental and emotional selves.
So final question, and then we'll do a little wrap up and give you time. If there's anything that we haven't touched on that you want to share, that's great too. I've had several questions come in of like, and this to me is such the trail running question. It's like, well, what race are you doing next? Or do you ever want to do 100-miler? And so I want you to answer those questions. But I also, as the hiker, I'm always like, it doesn't always have to be bigger and better. Like, it can always just be like, I'm good with what I've done and where I'm at now. So what are you doing next? And what's your relationship with the culture of like, what's next? And is it bigger and better?
I love that question, because I've been thinking about that a lot. That's like the second question. I do have some plans that I'll tell you about in a minute, but there was a time when I was like, I definitely want to do 100 and maybe a 200. Maybe I'll do Tahoe, but now, like, I just love going out and going for a really good trail run in the snow. It could be 5 miles, it could be 3 miles. And I'm super happy. And I do, on one hand, want to, continue testing my body just to kind of see what it wants to do and what it can do. I don't know if my knee is going to allow that. My knee is feeling great because, like, I had a great surgeon, great recovery, great all that stuff. But like, I'm like, do I actually even need to do that? Because I think what my job is to get people to do stuff they never thought they could do. Right? I'm 45. I want 45-year-olds to think, oh, I can go out and learn how to ski. I can be a beginner. That's what I want to do. Like, that's what I love doing. Like, I can run. I could run even though I'm a bigger girl or a bigger guy or whatever. I can try that. So I think that's my focus right now. I always think FKT people are crazy.
What? No.
I read all your books, just so you know. I read all of them. No, but I think that we need that. We need to aspire to. We need to be able to look up to humans who can do incredible, incredible things, right? So that we can see what the potential of humanity is. I think that's so important. But it's also important to be like, I'm okay with the 3-mile run. I mean, I really like 50Ks. So I want to go out and do a lot of 50Ks. That said, there's still some adventures that I'd like to do. I've been invited to the UTMB series of races this year, and I will not be doing the big long one because that's crazy, and I would not even meet the first cutoff. But I'm gonna do the MCC, which is a 40K fun run. With 7,500 feet of vertical gain. So I'm actually training for that right now. All the sports and things that I'm doing, I've been on the incline trainer. I've been, up and down trails and stuff like that, and doing a lot of movement work and strength training. That's for that. I'm also going to do Trans Rockies 6-day again. Hopefully these things will actually happen. And then I have a bike race, a 60-mile bike race. Everything is in August. So those are the things that I'm really, really looking forward to. And I'm so happy that I can actually train now, and my body feels healthy. My body feels actually phenomenal right now. And, I'm not at my sort of athletic height, I'm not the fittest or as fit as I need to be, but I'm getting there. So I'm really, really excited about those things.
Cool. Well, August, hopefully we, all have our shots and all feel good, and that will be a big month. I think a lot of people are hoping for adventures later in the year in 2021. Before we sign off and talk about next month's book, you have been so generous with your time and allowed us to ask so many things that we were curious about and wanted to know. And like you said, I could keep you here for hours, but is there anything that's like on your heart or, important for you to share that we haven't touched on today?
We've touched on this a little bit, but I just want to stress the importance that, this is a new normal, but we do have this incredible opportunity to create something new and to do things in a new and innovative way. So as depressing and as horrible as the situation is that we are in, we can also glean some beauty from it. We can just take a new direction. And I think that's something that I've learned myself in the last 11 months. Take a new direction and be okay with it. And, that's a really awesome way of living and just engaging in life, because life is short. We never know. We never know when we're going. So let's take advantage of it.
Yes, I agree. I've been trying to remind myself, because I have been in a funk, and I've been trying to say every day is a gift. Like every time I can hug my children, it's a gift. And, what you said is so beautiful. I'm sort of at the other end of like, I just want to give up and go live in the woods, which feels like a good option too. We're working towards that. Like we need to spend more time outside right now because it makes us feel healthy and sane and happy and normal. So I just, again, Mirna, want to thank you. I want to recommend A Beautiful Work in Progress. There's so much wisdom that we cannot share just because we're limited in time here, but you will feel like Mirna is your friend. When you finish the book, you will realize that you're probably capable of more than what you think you can do. You will learn about someone's perspective who is probably not just like you. So we love her book. It's signed at our shop and at www.blueridgehikingco.com if you want an autographed copy. This is also the first of 4 Armchair Adventure book clubs this spring. This year, we're having them on the first Thursday of the month. And the next book will take us from the East Coast, which Mirna has covered for us. We're going to go out west and hear about the Pacific Crest Trail with Journeys North, written by Barney Scout Mann. And he is a triple crowner, so done the 3 major long trails, and also a trail angel who helps a lot of hikers on their journey. So that will be in March on the first Thursday at noon. I hope you can join us for that. I want to thank our nonprofit partner, the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. Check them out. They have so many great initiatives going on, and they are there to protect and preserve the trail and teach others how to do the same. And then Mirna, because we all now are your friends, right? We've covered that. So as your friends, where can we follow you, and what can we do to support you besides reading your book?
Well, thank you. I am on Instagram as the Mirnovator, Twitter, the Mirnovator, Facebook. I have this amazing Facebook group that's around 16.2 thousand people, where it's called Fat Girl Running. You don't have to be fat, you don't have to be a girl, you don't have to be a runner. But we talk about athleticism, and it's a very sort of a very body positive, very, you know, let's go out and do a half marathon or a 5K, or right now we're doing a challenge of getting up off the floor, because that's an actual skill that you need to keep your body healthy. And so like we do crazy things like that. I fell in, you know, my thing was falling into the snow up and down the other day. But I'm also on Patreon, and what I use my Patreon money for is hiring people to like hiring PTs to do talks in my group, and because I don't need the money. So, but I like to pay it forward and give back to the people and the sport that have given me so much. So that's where you can find me. Come and join us.
Awesome. I feel Mirnovated. Is that a word now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, well, safe, happy skiing this afternoon. Thank you to everyone who joined us in Zoom, on Facebook, and we hope to see you next month when we talk about Journeys North. Happy trails, y'all.
Bye, everybody, and thanks.